Welcome to all of you all. And today we have another interesting live conversation with October beginning and Opal being the birthstone of October. It's my pleasure to have Renata from Sydney and John all the way from the mine. They together will be talking to us about the most exclusive gemstone, which is also known as the national gemstone of Australia, all about Australian opals. So just to brief you guys a bit, Renata, she's a creative director, and John is a person who sources all these exclusive opals from the mines in Australia.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
It's our pleasure. So, John, my first question is to you. Talk to us about the journey of Opal Minded and how did you know about your passion towards these rare gemstones?
Well, I should say that my story really starts with my father arriving just after the Second World War. He was from Poland, and he was in the Polish Army under British command. And he had aspirations to come to Australia. He wanted to follow his dreams. He was motivated by explorers like Strzelecki, etc. And that's really where the story starts. My story starts probably about when I was 7 years old, when I started actually sort of part-time between school mining with my father. I know it seems a bit young, but that's pretty much I've been involved since I was 7. I'm now 58, so that gives me 51 years of experience in some ways. And Opal Minded really came to fruition because I didn't really get on well with my father. That's how it started, really. And I just discovered that I had some sort of talent towards it, and it was just something that I thought I'd just do. Still finding my journey in life, but it ended up being, well, this is my journey of life.
Wow.
And we've been open for 32 years now.
I believe it was all destined. You were destined to eventually join your father's company and taking forward the entire legacy.
Yeah. But I really went on my own quite early.
Okay,
so
nice.
I was with my father, but then I went on my own early. But at almost his end of his life, we got together again, which I thought was great. And especially because I purchased this mine some 20 years ago, and he was involved in it for a short period. Then, unfortunately, he died.
So that he's super proud of you right now.
I hope so.
Yes. And how about you? Let's hear your side of story and your passion towards Australian opal.
Myself?
No, that's for Renata.
My husband is a great talker. I love listening to him. That's why I fell in love with him. So
nice.
this was quite a while ago. And at the time when he told me that he was into opals, I thought, oh, goodness, really? What about pearls or diamonds or something? Give me something more interesting. Then probably 2 years into seeing one, so I didn't take any interest in what he was doing. I was an academic. I was lecturing in media, and I just finished my PhD. And then John's friend brought a parcel of beautiful opal to show to us, and that was it. They were just magical. And the rest is history. I couldn't really do anything else.
So it's completely destiny, right? Destiny had him join his father's business, and destiny got both of you all together.
Yes, and John's passion, John's excitement about opals and the way he sees opals, which is a little bit different to most people in the industry, is absolutely contagious. So I guess sooner or later I had to fall into it.
Talking about Australian opals, John, take us through the mines that are owned by Opal Minded, and we would love to hear all about the Australian mines and your work behind the mines.
Well, as probably most people have at some stage seen some videos or films about opal-bearing areas like Coober Pedy, Lightning Ridge, we're a little bit different. We're in a district. We're in a place called Jundah. Our mine is called Opalville, and it's in a shire council of approximately the size, a little bit less than the size of Ireland, with a population of 400 people. As opposed to Lightning Ridge or Coober Pedy, where they're actually centers of opal mining. There's really nobody around us. We're really out in the middle of the sticks. And it gets very, very, very hot here. The reason why we're here, because it's a very unusual mine. It's an old mine, established about 1895. And we are still going through some of the old diggings. And where they missed, they didn't have the technologies or the know-how. A lot of these mines were established by really desperate people during the recession of 1895. mainly shearers who had no jobs. So it was a random scattered holes everywhere. And what Jundah provides, unlike most other mines, is three types of opal. Is boulder opal, which a lot of people are familiar. Pipe opal, which is basically a fossil replacement, and which is really what the industry started on here in Queensland, was pipe opal. And we have another thing called matrix, and two types of matrix, which is an ironstone matrix and sandstone matrix.
So can we see some of these rough opals that you have curated for us?
Yeah. Okay, so I've
Lovely.
prepared a few pieces. At the moment, we've got some boulder opal out. So I'll give you an example. So I've just got some rough opal here. And we can start from the cavities, where you can see right here. And basically, silica flows over millions of years into these cavities, and then they settle into veins like this.
Right.
And this is a really good example, because this is an example of half white or milky boulder opal and half of black boulder opal.
Right.
And we follow that. We block this out and we follow the vein, and as you can see, it goes around here, comes around over the other side, and then somehow joins onto this thin vein, comes around to here. So this is the stage we kind of prepare here in Jundah, which is 1,850 kilometers from Sydney. And then we take it to Sydney and continue. But to give you a few more examples, this is a nice, very nice blue vein, dark. And I don't know if your viewers can see, what makes this opal here unusual is that very thin magnesium line just under the opal that's attached to the ironstone, extremely hard. But that gives it the characteristics of a black boulder. Again, the vein is quite large, quite long, goes right through onto the other side and goes through here. Now, I'm just going to go through a few more here so you can get a better understanding. Hope people aren't bored. This is another nice green vein, and you can see the density of that magnesium line. Again, you follow it through, goes into a little bit of a potch, but we block them out, and then it splits in two veins. So there'll be two stones there, and then comes around here, and that's where the cavity didn't fill, and it comes around here.
Fantastic.
Just a few more. This is a lot darker, smaller. I don't know. I should be looking at what's on the camera. Yeah, comes around. Not as nice as the other ones, but it could be still interesting. Looks really good on the other side. It might be a fairly dirty stone, but we're hoping it might clean up.
Okay.
So I'm going to give you another example of something that we also get splits. And splits are good because you can create a matching pair. So again, you have the vein, the cavity that it was filling in here didn't fill up all, but we just pried it open because there was a crack.
Nice.
And it opens up with a bit of color inside.
But opals, would these be boulder opals, right?
Yeah, these would be boulder opals, and I'll just show you another one, which is probably a little bit better. Because they're in the rough, I have to wet them because they haven't been sanded or polished. I'll just show you another. Again, same thing. There's a vein. Didn't look like much. It split, and you have.
Wow, beautiful.
And we'll probably get a couple of pairs of that. Now, again, there's another piece here, which has purple.
Right.
And a little bit of red. Nice vein that goes to green. And this most likely will split too, because there is a crack running straight down the line.
Okay.
There. So part of the cutting process, I know people are interested in the cutting process, is we don't automatically just start cutting this material. We block it and heat it on a stove to see if there are any fractures or cracks, so we don't have to have problems later on. Another black boulder. This one's rather interesting too. It'll be a nice clean stone. The vein goes underneath here.
Right.
And to give you an idea of what happens when you get a piece like this one here and start exposing it, which we did on this one, this is the result. It's a large stone. It's a mix of black and milky white there. You can see some of the, it's rather thick. We
Right.
haven't totally cleaned out some of the spots in it because we're fairly limited with the type of specialty tools that we have here. And I have more patience in Sydney than I have here. Sometimes I just want to see what the hell we've got because it's hard.
Interesting.
It's sometimes fairly difficult. But when you get opal
Beautiful.
coming out of the ground, unlike many other gemstones, you generally know what you have. So when that stone gets exposed the first time in 250 million years, that's the best time to see it. We generally knew what we got on this one, but it's nice to
Beautiful.
see it exposed.
Yes.
It'll most
Right.
likely be several stones, but we'll leave that
Several
decision to
stones.
Sydney.
So you
Yeah.
mean to say that once you source all the rough opals at the mine, these rough stones go to Sydney, and that's where the cutting and the polishing takes place, is it?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So now
Yeah.
can you please highlight a bit about the cutting and polishing of the semi-precious gemstones, please?
Yeah. Okay. So most stones, as we probably know, especially in the colored stone, they have specific dimensions, specific cuts, especially with
Yes.
faceting. A lot of the opal is free-formed because
Okay.
the opal is really telling you what to do. You can't control the opal. The opal will control you. There
Lovely.
are some people that possibly cut to size or cut to weight, which is not necessarily good also. But it's a very organic thing, and you have to make that decision as you're cutting. You don't know what the end result will be because even if you
Right.
cut, there are flaws in the
Yes.
stone, like all stones. And when you've cut it, you have to then again, what we do is heat it up and just have a look at for a couple of weeks to see that did we do a very, very good job.
Oh,
The cutting
interesting.
techniques we use is basically the traditional type of cutting, other than we no longer use what do you call them, silicon carbide wheels. We use diamond wheels for grinding.
Okay.
But
Nice.
for polishing, we definitely still use sandpaper. We don't use
Okay.
resin-coated diamond wheels.
Right.
We just find that the quality of the finish is better, and it's more traditional methods. It's not necessarily, the easiest. By far, it's not the easiest, but we get better results that way. So again, you go through your grids, your diamonds. On boulder, it's mainly from a grinding wheel. You can go to 250, 400 paper, then 600, 800, and 1,000 paper. Then you can go on cerium oxide or whatever. And most people who understand cutting kind of know and understanding the basis. It's really about not about the equipment. It's really about the technique that we use.
Right. Absolutely. That's very interesting to know. So now we got a brief insight about the mines. We got a brief insight about the cutting and the polishing procedure. Now, Renata, let's come to you since you are the creative director of the company. So we would love to see your creative outputs, these opals.
Well, I can probably show you a few pieces. So you have seen the veins. You have seen that thin line of bright color. Now, this is what could live in a color like this. So essentially, what John has in his hand, he will not know what it is going to produce. It could be something really exciting, or it could be something quite underwhelming. We, for instance, we don't actually have the rough opal to show, but that's the type of material that's quite typical of the mine. It's got this amazing brightness, which I'm not sure is coming through.
Yes. So is John holding the same sort of rough or the same category of rough as to what you're holding?
I'd like to say that my piece is better, but I won't know till I face it because I'm just looking at the vein here. Yeah.
Okay, darling. So have you got something as good as this? Well, what about this?
Well, probably not, but I'm hoping.
That's a very interesting piece.
It's quite exquisite. I keep thinking about Van Gogh's painting when I look at it. It's that's incredibly rare color play. Another piece of boulder opal. So that's again something that you wouldn't have a clue while looking at the stone that John is holding, that would be just a very, very, very thin line of something quite pretty. And underneath that rock, that brown rock, right inside
Yes.
the rock, there could be something as exquisite
Wow.
as this.
Fantastic.
And we won't know until John opens that rock.
Opens
We
them.
won't know until the very end, actually, of
Beautiful.
polishing.
Love the whole play of color. Yes, John?
If I could just say something, which I forgot to say, what people may not realize, and we're not specifically talking about white opal from Cooper Pedy because it behaves a little bit different, but Boulder opal has this, and black opal from Lightning Ridge also behaves this way, that you really don't know till you're finished. Because if it looks great on one side, in other words, where we've cut it this way, it may not face. Or the opposite, it looks terrible on the side, you face it and it is absolutely wonderful. That's what makes this gemstone a really unique stone. You just don't know.
Wow.
It's like a relationship. You just
Yes.
get to throw yourself in and see what happens.
All right. So what are you holding now, Renata, in your hand?
I'm holding a miracle of nature. So this is something that would give nightmares to any opal cutter. Just have a look at the surface of the stone.
Yes.
Quality is absolutely outstanding. I don't know whether it carries through the camera. But to cut, to polish the stone of that uneven nature, that takes skill.
Fantastic. I have a question that was this rough itself very uneven? That's how the output and the polish happens to be uneven, or it was a mastermind of the cutter and his vision to have something uneven?
John, sorry. You go ahead.
You want me to? Okay, that's called angulation. Basically, it's like the actual stone is rather angulated inside.
Okay,
and I'm trying to find an example here. Well, probably this one is probably close. The vein isn't actually 100% even. So what you're doing is you're just following the opal and gradually taking off the excess material till you have the final stone. It adds huge character. You know you cannot fake this. You know, this is totally natural the way it was formed. So we'd like to cut the stone to what the stone is telling us. Angulated could be straight. I find angulating stones rather interesting, rather unusual.
Look at that. Nice.
So that gives you that is exactly the same material as we just showed in the rough here, and that was a really big piece, and it took forever to get cut. And you can see the angulation, and that's why we use sort of traditional techniques, more like a carver, using small sandpaper bits and all sorts of tools that we generally make ourselves. We make some of our tools ourselves, especially the sort of sanding type of tools, where we can still use silicon carbide mixed with certain resins and stuff like that we can use, that we just don't find the bought stuff or the stuff off the shelf good enough. But that is also part of tradition. And I'm not saying that anything out there is not probably better, probably is, but we traditionally have been doing that. It works for us, and that's how we stuck to it.
Renata, if you could please get the ring back. That was a gorgeous ring that you were holding. We would love to know more about your inspiration and your creativity behind this beautiful piece. It's something so simple, but yet look at that opal. It's so powerful.
It's a ring called Life's Garden. So essentially we have a huge mass of water. That's what I saw it, an ocean. And then we have the beautiful flowers of life around it, surrounding it. I'm not sure whether the picture is clear, but you probably
clear,
you get the impression of the brightness of the gemstone. We can also have red. It's very difficult to focus on that amount of color. So we're basically looking at just a cluster of rainbows magically put into a small pebble.
Moving further, let's talk about the rarest and the most expensive opals.
Look, without doubt, I mean, if you're talking about the rarest, I'd say Boulder opal, generally good Boulder opal is without doubt the rarest of them. But at the end of the day, this is really about a personal choice. And I hate to say that this opal is better than another one, because it's really personal. It's in the beholder, like love and beauty, right? So
Yes.
it's extremely difficult to say what is the rarest. When we talk about the rarest, I think if we talk about stones that have unusual patterns, and I can only name 4 or 5 in my whole lifetime that I've seen that were absolutely exceptional stones. And this is what I love about Jundah, is when we do find stones, which we don't have too many of them, they have exceptional color and pattern. And there are traditional patterns that everybody says, wow, but I've seen some amazing patterns. I think that's, if anything, is the rarity of a good opal. But at the end of the day, it's in the beholder.
Right. And now what is Renata holding for us?
That is actually quite an unusual pattern. It's peacock feather. John, would you like to elaborate?
I think it's a wonderful stone, and it's a really good pattern.
So what are you currently designing and creating? You know, some specific theme that you have?
At the moment, I'm working on several bespoke commissions for our American clients. Somehow this is what COVID has given to us as a gift. But in my personal project, I am working with a stone that you have seen. Now, the majority of the work is actually happening in my mind. But I see that stone, which could be just a very, very valuable specimen. I see that stone in a necklace, in a really, really magnificent necklace. I saw red gemstones around it. I see ladybirds added somewhere there. So it's a project that's in the making. For now, it is all in my mind, but it is going to be a substantial, a big thing.
So with that, I would like to ask you that when you hold a piece of rough or a polished opal, you know, like what comes first to your mind? And what inspires you to make something exclusive? Is it the gemstone? Is it the setting that you have in your mind? Or is it some design that you already have in your mind that this is what you want to create?
It could be anything. It could be a person with whom I'm working. So that jewel is really emotions. It is about commemorating something really, really special, something really, it's about love. It's always about love.
John, my next question is to you. We would love to know about that. Do these gemstones appreciate over time? And how are these gemstones valued?
My wife is more knowledgeable in the pricings of them. I'm sort of lost.
Lovely.
But compared to what it was 20 years ago, I mean, the prices have gone substantially higher, and it's not necessarily supply and demand, because there was a period when there was a lot of supply, and supply does inspire demand. But what makes an opal valuable? People talk about the fact that black opal is the most valuable of all opals, and there is a certain amount of truth in that, but not really. It's really the colors, the type of colors on top of it, the pattern. And for me, what is extremely important, and I find that a lot of people don't talk about this, is opal is like, it's white light absorbed, reflecting color.
Yes.
And a good opal, what makes a really good opal is you take it out of the light, take it in the shade, take it in the dark. And when we sell, usually when we in the shop, we take people outside. We take them in different lights, because you might buy jewelry under these fantastically calculated lights, but how do they react in real world? And that's what really truly makes that stone valuable. So it doesn't really matter in my mind, because I'm probably a purist, and I love just all opals. It's really the one that makes you smile all the time. The one that you will continue looking at it for the next 20, 30 years, and it changes every time. It's never the same.
Beautiful.
So, yeah, so I think that's really what, in my mind, makes them the opal most valuable. Yes, we could sit down here for hours and talk about specifics, but at the end of the day, if it's not behaving itself under various different lights, I place less value on it. And that's, again, the beauty about Queensland, Boulder in generally, but specifically Jundah. I've known about this mine, although I've been involved for 20 years, I've known this mine for at least 40 years. And it was based on the fact that it behaves this more so than most other opals in different areas.
Right.
And that's unfortunate, something that you can't really see online or in this sort of situation, light passing through a prism effect to give you the colors.
Renata, you have something to add on?
Yes, I'm just holding two earrings. Now, the difference in value between these two earrings is about 10 to 15 fold. This earring is beautiful. The color expression is absolutely wonderful there. There's a whole rainbow there, and it's a magnificent gemstone. Now, this is a rare opal, a rare black opal. 15 times more valuable. The point that I was trying to make here is that the color expression seems to be quite similar. However, it is about the rarity of the material. It is the rarity of color. And that's something that you will know once you see enough opals. So essentially, experiencing valuing is important.
Further, since you talk about experience and value, what advice would you like to share with the collectors who are looking to build a collection of opal? Yes,
if you go and buy a diamond, there will be an expert to tell you which one is a good diamond. And this is what I think in some ways makes a true gemstone. Firstly, it has no value, really, in some ways. You know, it's really what someone's prepared to pay for it and for what someone's to part for it. That's really what you could define as a true gemstone. But when you're choosing something, even as a collector, it's really what you like. We sell to a lot of collectors that we might have an opal that not necessarily has a lot of great color, but has a really interesting ironstone pattern to it or character to it. And that's what's important, because if you love it, someone else will love it too.
Right. And let's hear from you now. What are your inputs about some advice to collectors, Renata?
For me, life is about love. So don't buy anything unless you love it. Of course, if you are in the business of just making money, that's a different proposition. But if you are truly a collector, you have to love a gemstone to buy it. And when it comes to understanding the value, the market value, always seek advice of the people who would have seen more than you.
Can people also source these rough gemstones and these creative designs from Opal Minded? Can you please share with us how can they contact you?
Yes, the best contact is essentially info@opalminded.com. So it's info@opalminded.com. We are based in Sydney. John is now away, and due to the lockdowns, he's in the mines, but that's the most attended email address for us and the easiest.
Okay,
and
that's
of course,
interesting.
we're on Instagram. This is how we met.
Instagram. And you mentioned about that you've been carrying forward your family legacy. So the success of the firm depends upon its work principles, its work ethics. So let's hear about the values of Opal Minded company.
I mean, there has been a lot of talk about sustainability, especially in the last few years. And and I kind of look at it and think, well, this is the kind of ethos we've had since the beginning, especially when we're coming to mining. Opal mining is not like any other commodity mining or even any other gemstone mining, because it is so fickle. It is where it is. There's no specific place that it is going to be, and it's constant. There are variables that you can look at and minimize your risk. So when it comes to mining, we're probably one of the few that really take the idea of the least amount of disturbed ground as possible, using technologies like drilling and ground penetrating radar, which is something that we just recently got into, which has minimized disturbance greatly. And also the fact that you're using less fossil fuels. We pride ourselves in the sense that we have a very sustainable camp. It's made out of pretty much totally out of recycled materials that we found around everywhere, and it's still extremely well functioned. And we base all our energy needs on solar. Australia's got a lot of sun, so we've utilized that. And I think most important thing is what happens to the mine in the future. And even if you add the idea of sustainability, because we are surgically mining, someone can come there and mine in the future if they wanted to, because we've missed some of the smaller pockets. And as technology improves, I also believe that in some ways that opal is constantly being formed. So maybe in 250 million years, I can go back to where we mined, but that's probably taking it a little bit far. But at the end of the day, we live in a very fragile world, and out here in the Australian bush, it is rather fragile. We don't have a great diversity as many other places, so we have to protect it, and we rehab the area, and we've been getting great results, and the area is better than it was before. So our basically intention is to leave the place the way we found it, or better. We seem to be fulfilling that, although it's not. Sometimes is very difficult, especially because we have sparse raining seasons, and we have to collect seeds at a specific time, and make sure that it gets there, doesn't get blown away or gets caught. Even the way we contour things. And the return of the fauna and flora is amazing to watch.
Renata, my next question is to you. Would you like to take us through some maintenance tips about Australian opals?
Essentially, Australian opals do not require any particular cleaning regime. So that's a little bit of a surprise. Australian opals are sedimentary, so they are quite, once they get out of the ground, we have them said, they would have suffered enough to be quite withstanding, even though their hardness doesn't seem to be high. There is nothing special that one has to do with opals. Problems could start if one has composite stones and you would not know about that. So this is when if someone is wearing an opal doublet or triplet as a ring, or even as other piece of jewelry, it might happen, it is possible that water could damage them. So, but when it comes to solid Australian precious gemstone, there is no special care, there's nothing that would destroy them. An opal ring for a long time, it might require repolishing.
So friends, in case if you have any questions, please feel free to share. And Renata, how does it feel to be in the business and to be handling the whole creativity aspect with your husband?
Oh, it's fantastic. John is full of ideas. I have my ideas, so it's often we have creative ideas battles, which is great. It's a very different. I was convinced that I was going to be a writer when I was a child, so that was my dream destination in terms of life. So it was quite a surprise that the river of life took me in this direction, and this is really owing to John. If I had not met him, I would have not been exposed to this marvelous gemstone.
Lastly, John, any piece of advice that's been very close to you and that you would like to share with our audience?
It's like when you're talking about the passion in this business, I mean, it's every day is a learning thing. You think that you can only learn so much, but what I find passionate about it is that I try to get better at it every day, whether it's with mining, understanding the ground. And I think that's the key of life. I think just whatever you do, try to be really good at it. And I think that's what we are trying to do. I know that's why I love my wife, because she just constantly wants to get better at what she wants to do. And I think that's why we complement each other in that way. So, I want to be here for a long time and make sure that I become the best miner that there was ever existed. Whether I'll get there,
of course
I
you
don't
will.
know. Some people think I am already, but I don't think so. I could do a hell of a lot better, because it's still a needle in a haystack. I'm trying to get really good at finding that needle in the haystack. So I think, that's what opal mining does, because it's not like any other mining. You have to become a hunter.
So with that, it's time to wrap up our conversation. So thank you, John, and thank you, Renata. It's been a pleasure to get all the insights about Australian opals.